Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Blood on the Razor Wire, where we keep it real and we bring it to you raw. I have a guest today that I'm bringing on, Kepa Mau Mau. He was 21 years old when he was sentenced to 55 years in prison. He was recently released just a few days ago. So I'm going to allow him to introduce himself, tell the people about yourself, and tell them about your situation, man, how you ended up in prison with a 55-year sentence at the age of 21.
My name's Kepa Mau Mau. Just got out of prison a few days ago. And I got caught up with a RICO. And in that RICO, there were three 924Cs in that RICO that three out of 8 counts. The 3 924Cs gave me that 55 years. And so I caught it at 20. I was caught at 21, convicted at 24, and I'm gonna need some guidance.
You're all right. So listen, because I know your story, right? You had 3 924C counts. You got 5 years for the first gun, 25 for the second, 25 for the other one, right? So you go to prison. Yeah. Let me ask you this: how long were you in prison for?
I was incarcerated for 12 years.
So you're incarcerated for 12 years, right, Mau Mau? And I'm going to call you by your last name. That's how I refer to you, okay? So you're in prison for 12 years. You're sitting in there. Were there times when you thought you would never get out, that you were going to die in prison?
Yeah, of course, man, of course. Especially going in there, the first thoughts are, am I going to make it out of here alive? And being my first time to prison, I don't know how it's going to be. And so, it's almost like I have to accept the reality or fact that I could die any day in there. And yeah, it's a harsh reality. It's hard for me to describe right now. Like, I'm trying to put my mind back in prison after just coming out, and
it's all right. Listen, it's okay. I'm here to guide you, man. I'm here to help you. You went to prison. You were a 21-year-old young man, right? You haven't really experienced life. Yeah. You were involved in some robberies, right? Okay, so you're involved in these robberies. You haven't experienced life. You're sitting in prison. You're like, wow, man, I'm never getting out. But there came a point where you ended up getting out, and that's the reason why we're here, because they had changed the law, right? And I know that it's probably hard for you because you just got out a few days ago. So the world is different. I mean, I know that you're probably like, it's just crazy to walk out of prison when you went in there at 21 thinking you're never going to get out. Let's talk about some other stuff, though. We'll get back to that. Let's talk about what prisons you were in.
Okay. I was in Atwater, California, for about 4 years.
Let's talk about Atwater. Let's stay at Atwater first, okay? So you're in Atwater. You're a young man, 24 years old. You walk into prison pretty much with a life sentence in numbers, right? Okay, so you got a life sentence. 55 years is life, man. You get to prison. Was it violent there?
Yeah, of course it's violent. It's violent. Like, that's the environment. You're taking, a bunch of people and sometimes that's one of the languages that's spoken up there is violence, and you kind of gotta adapt more to that, like, make yourself a part of it. And yeah, for me, like, I don't know, it's pretty hard. People might already have considered me, like, being described as violent already, but I don't feel like I was a violent person. And just to get there, it's almost like taking on a mentality that, like, this is not something I would exercise in my own house, And so to go to prison, and although the media would describe me as someone that's violent, that's not in my mind, or I feel that that's something that's in me. And so when I get to prison, and that's the norm, the culture, it's almost like you gotta adapt and become, or you're you're either gonna get taken out, or you're at the bottom. Or
So let me ask you this.
I don't know. It's
While you're sitting in prison, right? I mean, you've probably seen some people stabbed, right? Atwater was a bad place. Have you seen that?
yeah, yeah, of course, man. Stabbings, riots, and it. I don't know. It's hard for me to describe it, and just this right here. This right here feels new to me. This right here feels new. This is out of my comfort zone, so I'm not really. I'm not used to this right here. It's hard for me to open up and express like
This is
this.
why it's important, though, right? Because I want people to see. I want to bring something to our YouTube channel that other people don't have. I want people to see the effects of incarceration. I want them to see what it's like for a man to spend 12 years behind bars. Because let's keep it real. You went to prison. You were a kid, mentally and emotionally, man. You were 21 years old, but you were a kid. And you were facing a life sentence in years. Now you walk out and the world's crazy. It's all new to you. You're not in your comfort zone. But you know what? Mama, you have to get in your comfort zone, because if not, you're not going to be successful. And I know you personally. I know you want to be successful. And you are the perfect guest for my show, because this show's about saving kids from going to prison. It's about saving those 21-year-old kids just like you from going on an armed robbery because maybe some older dude say, hey, Mama, let's go do this. Let's catch this jack. I know where there's this money. I know where there's these bricks at. I want them kids to think like, man, if I do that, I could be like Mau Mau. I could be in prison for 12 years with a 55-year sentence and maybe never get out. That's why I feel like you're the perfect guest. And I appreciate the fact that you're not comfortable. And that's a good thing, because now I want to help you get comfortable. Anything I can do for you on this end, I'm going to do. So now I do want to talk about the violence, but there's a reason why. And I want the viewers to know why. Because I want the viewers to see what a 21-year-old kid had to see. You weren't violent, although you were charged with a robbery, but you never committed any real acts of violence yourself, correct?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if
You never shot anybody during these robberies, right? Okay, no one was hurt, right?
Never shot anybody at these robberies.
Nobody was hurt, right?
Nobody was hurt.
And you got a 55-year sentence for doing a robbery.
Yeah, 55-year sentence for doing a robbery.
Now, let's go back to Atwater. It's in California, dangerous place. You ever seen anybody get murdered in your unit?
Not in my unit, but it's happened in the prison. It's happened there. Mainly more in Louisiana. More in Louisiana.
Let's go there, because I was in Polo Lock too, right? Let's go to Polo Lock.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, Big Sandy and Polo Lock were the most dangerous prisons I've ever seen. And I just had a guest on the other day that talked about 11 murders at one prison, which was at Polo Lock. That was Cedric Dean. Let's talk about Polo Lock. Tell me what it was like when you walked into Polo Lock.
Man, when I walked into Polo Lock, I'm thinking too, this is pretty much the same as when I'm walking into California. It's like, am I still going to be alive, after experiencing this prison? And again, there, of course, you're going to see, a lot of different things. And now I'm seeing that, like, there are some ways where you're like, if you're doing time and you're like, wow, this might be cool right here. But at the same time, there's the other side to it, like, because it's cool to where you feel like you're not going to be harassed as much. Like, it's almost like wow, a lot of things can happen here. A lot of things can happen to where it's like.
Let me tell the viewers what you mean by when you say cool, because I know what you're talking about, because I was in prison like yourself. I was in Polo Lock. What you mean by saying it was cool is that, there's a lot of guards there that don't really give a shit. They don't care if people got cell phones. They don't care if people are getting high. They don't want no trouble. But when you have guards like that and you're in a prison environment like that where no one gives a shit, that's where the violence is at all-time highs, right? Is that what you're telling? That's what you mean by cool?
Yeah. It's it's like, yeah, you're not, yeah, it's almost like saying California, I'm harassed a lot, right? By the COs. Like I'm harassed a lot to where like it's unnecessary. You know, then I get to a spot where I'm not harassed as much. And then like going into what you're talking about, you know, where it's you know, that cool, that description or definition that you're describing, you know, where, yeah,
I mean, I
yeah.
understand it. So in Polo Lock, how many violent incidents do you think you've seen in that place? How many stabbings did you see?
I don't think I can count how many stabbings I've seen there to where it's like it's normal. It's normal. It's normal. It's nothing. It's not new to me. It's you know, you see it. It's an everyday thing. It's like, oh, okay, this person's getting stabbed today, or you know, you hear stabbing. The deuces are going off all the time, and you know, it doesn't alarm me. It doesn't alarm me. I'm used to it. I'm just, you know, that's what it is in prison, and you
That's a
know,
sad reality that you get used to people getting stabbed and killed. Ain't that sad?
yeah, it is sad, and I think for that reason, like because it's normal to me. Like I would block a lot of those things out. Like I wouldn't focus on it. Like I would know, like you know, somebody's getting hit on the yard, and you know, so when people are watching, for me, it's just like it's just another day, you know, and I know I'll look and then you know go about my business again. It's that's what it's gonna be tomorrow too, and you know, but what can I do to, you know, when I focus on it, I ain't going anywhere. When I focus on it, you know, it might make me just want to do the same thing when I'm focused on it. And so, you know, a lot of times when it happens, I just continue moving on with my day, man. Continue moving on with my
I
day.
want to ask you this. What's your nationality? You're an islander, right?
Yeah, Islander, I'm Tongan from South Pacific Islands.
So what car were you in when you were at Polo Lock?
I was with the Asians and Islanders in
Okay,
Polo.
the Asians and the Islanders.
With the Asians and
Did
Islanders.
that car sometimes have problems over there with other cars or any type of violent incidents?
Yeah, I mean, because the numbers there, like there was very few of us there. Um, yeah, there was potential problems there. A lot of potential problems. Like you know, even if I'm not the one to start it, you know, somebody else, you know, has a problem, then you know, it's my problem too. I'm involved too, and I could be doing good. I could be doing good, and I still, you know, gotta. I'm
So
still
you had to
involved.
handle your business. If one of
You
your
know.
homeboys got jammed up, you got to handle your business, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It's understandable. I mean, I know the
yeah,
prison politics, and the viewers don't always know what's going on in there. A lot of people think that federal prison is camp fed, that it's a great time, and everybody's having a good time, and it's easy time. You can play tennis. They got great food. It's really not like that, is it?
no, it's really not. Man, the food sucks, man. But yeah, it's you know, I gotta imagine that it's really good food, and pretend that you know one day that's what's gonna be. That's what it's gonna be is good food. You know, just trying to recreate that in my mind. You know, the food sucks. The food sucks. It's garbage. And it seems like it's getting worse every year. Um,
You know, let's talk about this. So you've seen a bunch of violence and bad things in life, and the reason, like I said earlier, the reason I want to highlight the violence is because I want kids to see what we really went through, Mau Mau. I want them to know what it was like for you to walk in there with a life sentence, to see the things that you've seen, and for them to see how it affected you. I'm talking to you on camera. You've been released from prison for what, 3 days? 4 days?
yeah, 3 4 days. Thursday.
And this is what I want them to see, Mau Mau. I want them to see you right now. Because this ain't cool, man. You hear me? This ain't cool what you had to go
Yeah,
through and the feelings that you're having right now. I can see it. I see it in your face. It's not easy. And I want them to not have to go through what you went through, man. And I want to see you succeed. And I'm here to help you in any way that I can. I'm here to help you succeed. Me and you had the same type of charges. We had stack 924Cs. what happened to me happened to you. Your judge granted your compassionate release motion, right? Said, I'm releasing this man. The government appealed your case and left you in jail for what, 8 or 9 months since that decision was ruled on?
Yeah, you were actually a whole year.
A whole year. Now, like you, I had stack 924Cs. I was supposed to be released June 5th. You remember that? And then I didn't get released.
Yeah.
The government appealed my case in the morning. My family was there to pick me up. I had to go back into jail. 3 weeks later, the appeals court released me. In your case, it took another year. We both had the same lawyer, John Gleason. Thank God. You know, he was able to help us save our lives.
Thank God.
One of the best in the business, if not the best. But I want to talk to you now a little bit about your transition. What was it like when you found out you won your appeal? And how did you find out?
Yeah, no, so I mean, sitting in jail, you know, I'm trying to bring more awareness to even the situation and like, man, what can I do besides you know, drawing illustrations and stuff. So you know, um, I start putting together a petition. And it's taken me like a couple weeks to find the right words because I want to make sure that I'm saying and describing, you know, what's really capturing what's here in my mind and with what's really going on, what's actual fact. And so I'm trying to put this petition together, and I finally get it. And you know, I call one of my associates, and she's like, "Yo, um, your sister says to call your lawyer." And I'm like, "Why?" And she's like, "I don't know, but you need to call your lawyer right now. Hang up the phone and call your lawyer." I'm like, "All right." And so she hangs up the phone, and but before she does, she's like, "You want me to read your sister's text?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Okay." So she says, "Can you tell my brother to call his lawyer?" And then she says, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." And I'm like, "Oh man, this is bad news. This is bad news because that's what I feel all I've been getting, you know, through this whole fight." And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, I'm not gonna get my hopes down or up. So I call my lawyers, and they're like, wait, why are you calling? I'm like, well, I was told to call you. And then um, Prana was on the phone, and she's like, "Oh, okay, well, so you haven't heard what has happened yet?" And I was like, "No." And then she's like, "Okay, well, this is what's going on." She starts describing the situation, or yeah, explaining to me that the appeals won, and you know, from there it's like I almost don't remember the words after that. Like, you know, as soon as I hear that, you know, the appeals won, like she's talking and like everything's just drowning out, and I'm trying to grasp the situation. Like, you know, I do remember her asking, "How do you feel?" And I'm just like emotional. You know, I could feel the emotion rush to my face, like my cheek twitching, and I got the face mask over my eyes, you know, so that you know, I really don't have to pay attention to anything that's going on around me at that time. And yeah, man, I just feel the emotion like I'm wanting to cry, and I'm holding it back. I'm holding the cry back because I do that a lot. I do that. Um,
Let me ask you this, right? I mean, that's understandable. This is an emotional thing, man. You're thinking you're going to maybe die in prison. You go in as a young man, you're thinking, I might die here. And now you're being released. Now you win your appeal. You're going to be released. Man, you were just a kid, man. And it bothers me what happened to you. That's why, Mama, I do the things that I do, man. That's why I promoted your agenda when I got out of prison, man. I picked you to promote your agenda. I used you to promote why this stuff needs to be changed. Because I see the effects that incarceration had on you. I see the effects of what a 55-year sentence is on a 20-year-old kid, man. It's wrong. And I see it in your face now. I see it, man. I see how prison affected you. And I'm sure the viewers are going to be able to see this. I mean, it's obvious that prison affected you, man. The things that you've seen in prison affected you. Being sentenced to 55 years at the age of 20 or 21 affected you, man. You went to jail at 20 or 21, got sentenced to 55 years at the age of 24. You're thinking you're in there till the sun burns out. But you never gave up hope, man. You always pushed to get out of prison. And guess what? The laws changed and you're here now, man. What are you going to do with your freedom? What are you going to do with it? I want to know what you're going to do with your freedom. You ever going back?
No. Hell no. With my freedom, like when you say that, all that comes to mind is one day at a time. You know, just being aware of because when I speak, I want to make sure that I'm following through what I say, right? And so, you know, I have a lot of things that I want to get done, and like, you know, part of it is being involved with youth and you know, pretty much trying to get that message across what you're doing right now. That like this is not a place to be. Like I have nieces and nephews that look up to me too, who you know, who have only seen that part of, or has known that this is what I'm locked up for, you know, and because of that, they're like, wow, like wanting to get to know me and thinking that, you know, one of the ways to relate is through that. And, you know, I'm like, man, that's the wrong message. That's the wrong message that they're receiving. And so, you know, as I'm coming back into their lives, some of them I haven't even met until I got out. But as I'm coming into their lives, it's and them not having any awareness of what I've been through, and like it's I can see some things that, you know, that I need to bring to their attention. Like hold on, like look at the way you're looking at things, or you know, the way you might, some words you might adopt that could lead you down that road. And it's hard for me to describe that to them. I think it's because of the way I'm seeing like how people learn. It's like how do I get this message across to them? Something they're not seeing right now. Like I don't want to glorify, you know, some of the stories, because it might be, you know, if I share the stories, like it seems like it could be mistaken as like wow, like I want to try or I want to experience that too, you know. So like I try to be careful on how I relay something to them, but like it's needed to let them know like this is not the way to go. It's not. And you know, so yeah, it's I try to think of ways to get that across, without allowing them to go through it themselves and experience that, to learn that lesson. Like to, yeah, it's I don't know, I've been doing a lot of thinking, overwhelmed right
It's
now.
understandable. And let me help you out, right? Some kids are fascinated by prison. So that's your in. That's how you walk in the door. It's okay to tell them stories, because that's what's going to get them interested. And once you have their interest, right, then you can start to tell them what the consequences of that type of lifestyle that they think they want to glorify is. Then you can tell them what it's like to go to bed hungry at night, what it's like to know if you're ever going to see your parents again alive, or your sisters or your brothers. Start telling them, you know, this is what it is. This is the things that you worry about in prison. You can tell them about, hey, man, yeah, I've seen people killed in prison, but you know what? You guys look up to me. I was scared, man. I didn't want to die in prison. I didn't want somebody to stab me. And yeah, I was a man and I had to stand up on 2 feet. And yeah, I didn't let no one put their hands on me. Or if someone tried to stab me, I was going to handle my business. But I didn't want to have to do it that way. You know, and I tell people all the time, even in prison, as I got older, I always felt like, and you can tell me what you think, but I always felt like whenever there was an issue, some people wanted a way out. And all you had to do was give it to them. That way we didn't have to resort to violence. You could be passive and let it go. I mean, there's certain things that you know, like I know, that you can't let go in prison. People calling you a bitch, putting their hands on you, stealing your shit. But a lot of times we don't get to that point. We can stop it from getting to that point, right? We can. But sometimes our anger, our depression, our loneliness doesn't allow us to go on that path. And that's when we lash out with violence. That's when we go get the knives. That's when we start stabbing people. But we could have learned that if we would have learned, we could have stopped it from going that far. You know, there's been situations where I was full throttle, and there were situations where I was like, man, let's just see if we can fix it this way. Where we had a guy steal some drugs from a white dude when I was in USP Lee. And, you know, I was the leader there, the shot caller, so to speak, right? And I went and I resolved that so that it didn't escalate. But it could have got ugly. You know that like I know that. There's race riots in there, man. I mean, you've seen that, right? Where the white dudes group up or the Mexicans group up on the blacks. You've seen that type of stuff, right?
Yeah, I've seen.
You've seen where the blacks come together and they group up on the Mexicans, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've seen the race riots out there. I've seen the race riots, and you know, I try to understand it myself. You know, I just have a different perspective on life, and you know, I like to see a lot of people. I like to see unity. I like to see everybody together. You know, and you know, so when I'm looking at it, you know, it's I feel like it's behind the times, and like people need to advance and progress, and the outlook to like unify.
I want to ask you a question. What is one of the worst things you've seen in federal prison? What's one of the worst things that you've seen that affected you, that bothered you?
I don't know. I try to think, and it's like it just seems all the same, man. Like the whole thing bothers me.
The whole thing of what? Being in prison, seeing violence every day?
Yeah, seeing violence every day, and like I don't know. You would think that the violence would bother me, but I think what really bothered me was like the lack of programs. Like you know that bothered me. You know, ways to educate ourselves. You know, where like if you're being educated and you're expanding on your knowledge, your awareness, things like that, like you can eliminate violence. Like people can actually think before resorting to violence. And so, I mean, the fact that you didn't have like the programs there, like there was always an excuse why it couldn't be run or why, you know, lockdown and like we can't make it to education, any of those things. Like we'd have to figure out ways to educate ourselves in the cell. Um, but you know, I think that's what contributed to violence is you not allowing people access to better themselves, you know, and you know that's what really bothered me. Like the violence, it just became normal, and I'm seeing that now the solution to that is education. You gotta start teaching people how to think and communicate, and you know work with each other instead of against each other. You know,
That's
um,
that
yeah,
Mama, that's an excellent answer. If that's the part that bothered you, 100% excellent answer because, like you said, through education, you can prevent the violence. But they don't really want that. They want the violence. The staff, they want that stuff. They do. Sadly, they want to see that stuff. They like when they lock us down for 30, 45 days. They don't have to do shit. They don't have to deal with anything. What do they have to do? Make sandwiches and take you to the shower? I mean, it's sad, man. It's sad. I just want to say, man, that I'm happy that you're free, man. I'm sad that you had to go to prison at, 20, 21 years old and spend all that time in prison. And it's obvious, man. It's obvious to the viewers, man, in the way that you talk, the way that you speak, that it had a profound effect on your life. But don't let prison dictate who you are now. Don't let your past determine where you go with your future. Because you're a young man. You got opportunities out here. You have to seize them. You have to seize those opportunities and you have to be successful. You have to be the example because I know that you care. It's obvious in the things that you say. I know that you care. So let me ask you one last thing before we close. And you've mentioned some of it. What would you say to your younger self if someone came to you and said, "Hey, today, what would you say? Hey, Mau Mau, let's go do this robbery, man. I know these Mexicans, they got 5 kilos in the house and $250,000. Let's go, man. Let's go get that. Here's a gun." What would you say to your younger self if someone did that to you today?
All I can think of right now is I'm cool, man. I'm cool. No, I'm cool. I'm straight, man. Like that. I mean, that's the feeling I get, and there are probably more ways to describe it and say things. You know, that's what comes immediately to my mind. I'm cool. I'm cool. I know what that leads to. I know the consequences. I'm tired of that life. Um, besides the way it's portrayed in social media, there's actually a real life experience, that we go through, that we get to see, the real side of things, and not a music video or anything. It's just or like
This is real life, man. This ain't a music video. When they slam them bars behind you for 55 years, that's real life. It ain't no music video. It ain't no nice cars. It ain't no sneakers, no pretty girls. It ain't the Benz. It ain't the Audi with the rims. It's going to bed hungry at night, worrying about if you got to kill someone the next day, worrying about if someone's going to kill you, worrying about if your mother's going to die while you're in prison. That's what it's about. That's why I say we're bringing it real and we're bringing it raw, Mau Mau. We're telling people what it really is, man. I was living that life. I was trying to, live a rap video life, man. I'm from the inner city in New York, and I was selling crack. I thought I was that dude, man. But in the end, I wasn't that dude. When you were out there robbing people, you weren't that dude. You might have thought you were. But the end outcome showed you that you weren't that dude. And today you appreciate your freedom, correct?
Can
I
you
said
say that
you
again?
appreciate your freedom today?
Man, I more than appreciate it. More than appreciate it. I can't believe I'm doing this right now. Like speaking to you like this. Like, yeah, man. I don't even know if this is real right now. I'm just coming from a different reality for the past 12 years. I described it the other day to some family members. It's like going from first grade to 12th grade all over again in prison. In prison, it's another education. Um, yeah, I definitely appreciate this. More than appreciate it, man. Thank
Thank
God.
God, for real.
Thank God. Thank God.
So listen, man, I'm going to tell the viewers this. Like I said, we bring it real. We bring it raw. Hit that subscribe button. If you want to reach out to Kepa Mau Mau, check him out on Facebook, Kepa, last name Maumau. And with that, we're going to close. I appreciate you being here, bro. Blood on the Razor Wire TV. Hit that subscribe button.